What's up, everybody? Srspookfest here. And joining me, my good friend Michael, and we got Harry from Bridgewater Triangle Paranormal Investigators. What's going on, guys? Happy Saturday. Cheers.
Not much, man. Just relaxing and everything. Taking a break from the PT and stuff. So it's nice to just settle down and be like with friends hanging out. So
And you guys get to meet each other for the first time. This
yeah,
is
very nice.
Harry.
Yep.
I did the investigation with him at the Alms House, or the 1786 house, as I call it. So, Harry, you are a good inspiration for me. I really, I love your channel. This guy has done everything in the Bridgewater Triangle where I grew up, and yeah, I just wanted to get to know you and like tell my audience what you do. How'd you get started? What's your first experience?
So, my very first experience was back in July of 1996. I was 14 years old, and I lived on the west side of Brockton, which is actually right inside the Bridgewater Triangle. And me and my neighborhood friend of mine named Troy, we used to ride our bikes behind Brockton High School. There used to be old quad trails over there that are actually now filled in. But back in the day, we used to ride our bikes down these quad trails. And one particular day, we got off our bikes and we were talking. And my friend Troy, he looks up in the sky and he goes, "Oh shit." And he runs and he's booking it and he dives into the tall grass. He's hiding. And I'm thinking, what is it that he sees? As I turned around, it sounded like a car driving on all four flat tires. The tall grass was blowing like crazy. The branches on the trees were blowing like crazy. As I turned completely around, flying towards me was this enormous bird.
Oh,
From
wow.
wing to wing, it was probably wider than like a raised ranch house, like your father's style house, the raised ranch style house. It was probably wider than that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it, and it's about 3 stories up, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I hope this bird doesn't mistake me for a worm and scoop me up and carry me on his way. It Picture brown, worn out suede. It had patches of bald spots. It looked like worn out suede. This bird looked very old, very prehistoric. It had fur, not feathers, but fur. It had knotted up, white, dirty fur. There was twigs caught in the fur, so you could tell this bird was crashing through the trees. But as it flew over me, the fur went everywhere. Picture one of those cattails that you open up in the marsh, all the stuffing that goes everywhere. That's what it looked like. And it flew south, going towards a place called the Hockomock Swamp, which means place where spirits dwell. It was a native burial ground for the Wampanoags that dates back like tens of thousands of years ago. And at the time, being 14, I didn't know about the Bridgewater Triangle. I didn't know about the Hockomock Swamp. So my friend Troy, he came out of hiding and he's like, "Harry, did you see the size of that bird?" I'm trying to be the calm, cool, collective one. I'm just like, yeah, I saw it. I knew it was going to bother with us, even though I was kind of relieved it was gone. So at 14 years old, I was in junior high. I was like a D average student. I was a stupid kid. I didn't think anything of it. I just thought it was some large bird that we never studied before in school. I actually, over the years, forgot about it. Troy forgot about it. He moved from the old neighborhood. I did as well. So I never really believed in the paranormal. I never believed in it. And it wasn't until 2007. I was with my buddy Seneca, who's one of the investigators on my team. And we were at our friend Brian's house. And they were telling me about this haunted, abandoned tuberculosis hospital in Hanson, Massachusetts. They said it was haunted.
Oh, yeah.
And
I know.
And actually, the date was, I can remember this. It was Saturday, April 14th, 2007, because they said they just went up there the day before for Friday the 13th. and they were saying that they were hearing, people talking. And I'm like, oh, really? Seriously? And my friend Brian's like, Harry, you got a car. Let's drive up there. And I'm like, okay, are we really going to see a ghost sighting? And he's like, yeah, definitely. So I'm like, oh, all right. So we drove up there. We actually, snuck in through the path because there was no trespassing.
Yeah.
We went up there, and it was built in the Greek revival style. It had that kind of style roof. I think it was built in the early 1900s. And I'll admit, at 25 years old now, I'm thinking, wow, yeah, this place is pretty creepy. You got a weird vibe. We're walking around, and you could hear what sounds like children laughing and crying at the same time. So, being a skeptic, I'm thinking, well, is there anyone else in this place? But I'm looking around and I don't see anyone. So I'm thinking, okay, that's a little strange. So we were there walking around probably for a good couple hours. And at the end of the night, I said, all right, nothing's going on. Let's just get out of here. My friend Brian's like, yeah, let's go. My friend Seneca was like, no, something is telling me let's walk around one more time. So I'm like, all right, bro. So we walked around the building one more time. We got up to the main entrance. Seneca's in the front line, and I can remember this. He stops, and he's pointing, and he goes, what the fuck is that? I'm like, I ran up to the top of the line, and I looked over, and I'm like, oh my God. There was this white silhouette of a figure hunched over like they were gripping a walker, but there was no walker. And they were just floating towards the entrance. My friend Brian behind me goes, oh my God, it's a ghost. They ran. I'm sitting there staring at this thing because I'm in shock now. I'm thinking, oh my God, ghosts are real. This is really happening. And I'm looking at them and I'm like, guys, what are we running for? And I'm like, fuck it. I guess I'll run too. So we all ran back to the car. I don't even, because we were debriefing about it. And for the longest time, we went there on a Friday night when we were bored. We eventually found our way inside. I remember one time Seneca opened one of the doors inside the rec room and a metal chair slid. Like as soon as he opened the door, it slid out. He jumped back and he's like, Brian, why are you fucking with me for? And I can remember Brian saying, dude, I'm right behind you. What are you talking about? So
these type of things is what I'm talking about. So the first one with the Thunderbird, we've talked about this. Same year. Would you say 97, 96?
96, yes.
Yeah, so I'm like 11 years old and something flew over my grandmother's yard. Same way you explain it. Huge, terrifying. The shadow covered her whole yard. She saw the shadow, but I started crying and running. And she's like, you're just freaking out. It's just a hawk or something. Years later, after I had my Thunderbird experience, my wife talked about a giant bird crashing through the trees. Like you said, like this thing was no joke. And this was in Middleborough with my wife, but mine was East Bridgewater. So the same year you saw your Thunderbird experience, I had one. And the way you explain it is exactly what I saw. So, and I remember it clearly because I freaked out. So it's like a core memory for me. Yeah. And then with your experience with that ghost at the Hudson, where is it, Hanson?
At the Hanson Hospital. So it wasn't until a year later, though, like I was telling a friend of mine about that. This was probably 2008. And when I was telling her about this ghost, she's the one that said to me, well, Harry, this is because you live in the Bridgewater Triangle. And I said to her, the what? And she started, that's when she started explaining about UFOs, Bigfoots. I'm rolling my eyes laughing. Yeah. And she's the one that said, Harry, no, it's true. People have seen large Thunderbirds right here in the city of Brockton. The second she said that, that's when the light bulb went off. And I said, oh my God, I seen one of these. Yeah. So it was ever since then I had an interest in this region of the Bridgewater Triangle, and I learned, like yourself, that many other people have seen this bird.
It's not like it's all over. So I probably heard 3 other people talk about Thunderbirds like that. So we just did an investigation at that almshouse. I've watched your Josiah Keefe house. Michael has some great stories about finding Native American stuff out by him. He's out in Tennessee. Go ahead, Mike, and tell him about the things you've had.
Okay, well, one of the first experience, see, instead of like paranormal investigating, I'm more of a, well, I used to be more of a forest explorer before I rebranded to telling true haunted history, right? And so I was out maybe 3/4 of a mile away from the house in the middle of nowhere where I was the only person that was given permission to be on that land other than the hunters that own that land. And this was not hunting season, so there was no like reason for anybody else to be out there other than me and my dog gathering lumber and stuff like that. So I was going out there one time and my dog, she started barking. And I looked over and I see this lady in what looked like to be a Nordic style witch cloak is what I could explain the best of it. And it had like a golden tree of life on the back of it. So I asked, "What are you doing on my neighbor's property?" Is she said, "Gathering pine needles for remedies," is what I specifically remember hearing her say. And then, like, right as she said it, my dog went from like barking like she was happy to meeting someone. And I figured it was like fine for like a minute. So I just continued cutting the limb that I was working on. And then after I started cutting again, she went from being happy to like wanting to rip someone a new one in layman's terms. And then I turned my head around to see what the lady in the cloak could possibly do, and she just kind of like pooped into thin air, like nothing was there. So to this day, I don't know if it was like a person or like a ghost or like something else. I haven't seen the person if it was a person since, and I've been back to that location several times.
So let me say hi to everybody too. Hi, Fawn. Let's see who else we got. We got Pomp. We got Mad Reactions Paranormal. Thy 420-inch. Hello, lovely lady. That's my wife. We got a few other people, but I really appreciate all you guys coming in. I thank you guys for coming and telling your stories because I don't know. I tell what has happened to me, and you guys tell me your stories, and this stuff does happen. This stuff is real. It's just out of the ordinary. I am definitely want to get back to different areas like you've been to, Harry, in the Bridgewater Triangle. Considering I've grown up there, I know how much you've done. It's just real investigating is why I like your channel so much. It's raw. You go out, you see what happens, and try and catch stuff. And you've caught some great stuff. The Josiah Keith house, that was a really interesting one. I watched that not too long ago. Some of the stuff that I've had happen is very similar. The Shadow Kid at Paul A. Dever. So that's in Taunton. Very similar setup to the Hanson Asylum. The tunnels underground. I don't know if that Hanson one has the tunnels, but what you're talking about, seeing a full-on apparition, that's what happened to me and my friends, and we all saw it. And seeing these things and experiencing them with other people is always why I like to talk about these things, because it's not just you're tripping or you're seeing something or imagination. If a group has an experience, it's a little different than like even me and you going into the almshouse, Harry. We got some voices on your spirit box, high EMF. We definitely heard a footstep or two while we were in there. That type of small activity, but still activity, is why I keep going back. And yeah, I really appreciate you guys coming on here. It's so much fun just to talk and get this stuff out there. Maybe somebody put in Harry's channel so we can actually like share his channel. I tried to do that in posts, but it's better while live so these people can see what Harry does.
Electricity in that building too, so there shouldn't be a reason for your guys' equipment to be going off if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Yeah,
I even
the wires
checked.
were cut.
There's no line going to that house.
Right. I mean, unless the wires had like a an energy of an EMF field that wasn't discharged yet. I mean, that's the thing about the paranormal. We'll never know. I mean, you go back there maybe a month down the road and maybe the EMF meter won't spike. And what does that mean? Does it mean that there's no entities there, or does it mean that the lines discharge? You'll never know.
See, I only got hits on, and I have a regular K2. What's your meter? Yours does a bunch more.
It's just mine's a regular EMF meter. It's masked, so it won't pick up Wi-Fi radio frequencies.
Okay. So see, that's what I need, a better one like yours. But I've had in the same spots, you know what I mean, the same type of EMF at the house. So I did think it was electricity. You can go outside. There's no electrical wires going to the house. Then finding out from one of the owners from maybe 20 years ago, she's like, I watched your video. That house is haunted, and there's a little kid buried in the backyard. And it's a little 9-year-old boy, is what she said. I looked in the backyard. I couldn't find any marker, but you did get some odd voices on your spirit box, and I heard it, like, personally while I was standing there. I think going back and doing these spots over and over again is important. Always return, try another investigation, make sure they know your name, and try and do this stuff more and more. Maybe eventually they'll get comfortable with you, or the spirits or whatever's happening abnormally will actually interact with you more because you've been there multiple times. Yeah, the weirdness with what you've done in Bridgewater Triangle and your experiences match with mine. Even Michael's over in Tennessee. He's seen, well, this one is different, UFOs stuff or spook light type stuff, where Michael has told me a story about a green orb flying by his house. I've had orange orbs up in Maine and Massachusetts. This stuff, so the connection too, like, it's kind of like blood brothers or something where you've had the experience. So I like to talk to people with similar experiences. It gets weird.
One experience was I wasn't even the one who noticed the orb like hovering over there. It was like 5:30 in the morning, and so I was out there. My dog woke me up because she needed to go to the restroom, right? So, and like Ryan said, I'm in Tennessee, and surrounded by woods. So I was using a flashlight to make sure I wasn't going to be mauled by a bear or a mountain lion randomly that comes out of nowhere, because we're surrounded by woods. And she started barking, and I looked at her. I thought she would be barking at something like on the ground, but when I looked at her, her ears were like directed like straight up, and her tail was straight up, and her head was looking straight up towards the sky and over the woods across the road. And sitting there was this huge spherical basketball size green orb of light. And so dumb me, like Ryan has done several times, I tried to pull out my phone and hit record, and shit. I tried to pull out my record, and so by the time I even tried to like hit record, it's like it knew I was filming it, and it grew and did like a 360, grew a tail, and then it was gone like in a matter of seconds. So that was just like one of the incidents over there. I also seen like what I could describe as a tic tac kind of like thing. I was coming back from like gathering lumber and stuff from the woods behind our house one day, and I was looking. I thought it might have been a plane, but it was moving like really, really, really slow to be a plane, and I didn't see any wings. And again, I went to go try and pull out my phone out to record, and it's just like this white, like little, it looked like, I can't really tell how big it was because it was so far away in the sky, but it was like a white object, and it was just like there, and then it was gone in a matter of seconds.
I've had a similar one to that too. Have you seen anything, Harry, like lights in the sky, weird UFO stuff?
I've never seen a UFO. I might have seen a spook light. It was bluish, though. It actually looked like a flame, a bluish flame. I have seen that, but never like the Tic Tac style UFO. That's very common.
Yeah, so I know you wrote, I told you that story, and then there's a little video I made. One of my first investigations, and the story of the headless railroad worker walking the tracks with his lantern. You did a great story on it and even like wrote a thing on it. And I can almost guarantee you, if you go out on those abandoned railroad tracks, if you stay out there long enough, you're probably going to see a spook light or just that lantern light or something like that. I know you've been there. You've been to some spots in Bridgewater Triangle that I got to get to. I did get to go to Dighton Rock, and that is old petroglyphs. If you don't know Dighton Rock, this is old Native American, old Norse or Portuguese. They're not sure who made these carvings, but I did get to go check this old rock out with the petroglyphs. Some say it does depict little alien creatures on it. People, when they first dug that up, had problems like with pictures. They couldn't get pictures. They eventually moved the rock, but there's also the grassy island, which is a Native American burial mound. I'm sure you know, Harry. Stuff that happened, they dug up old red ochre and it would disappear into the air. Seeing spook lights, cameras wouldn't work, equipment would shut down. So tell some more places you've done in the Bridgewater Triangle that, you know, your favorite spots. I know I gave you Nathan Celia and the Mill.
Love that story.
One is still my favorite, but
Probably one of my favorite spots in the Bridgewater Triangle is the Josiah Keefe house, actually. It's the oldest house in the town of Easton. It was actually built before the town was established. Reverend James Keefe, he was the very first reverend in the town of Bridgewater. He actually, I don't know if you knew this, it was said that he housed King Philip's son and wife and spared them
I
from
didn't
being
know that.
beheaded.
I think I just watched your video. I don't know if that's mentioned in there. I watched most of it, but that's one of the houses I got to get to.
Yeah. In his son Josiah Keefe, they were herding cattle back and forth from West Bridgewater to Easton. So Josiah Keefe decided he would build a corn crib in the Hockomock Swamp, and he moved his family in while he was building this house, and he completed it in 1717. His son Josiah Keefe II moved in. He lived there. Nothing really interesting about him. His son Josiah Keefe III grew up in the house. He was the lieutenant in the militia for the Revolutionary War. Him and George Washington actually trained the militia at Wheaton's Farm.
Okay.
George Washington actually came to Easton to negotiate and inspect cannons with the Oliver Ames Company.
I didn't know. See, I grew up in Easton. I know Oliver Ames. I know some of the history. I had no idea about this.
George Washington actually stayed at a lot of the taverns that were on Bay Road. Bay Road was the very first street established in Easton. It used to be an old Indian footpath.
Yeah.
So Josiah Keefe III and his troops, they marched up Bay Road to answer the Lexington and Concord alarm because it went all the way into Boston. They showed up late. When Josiah Keefe III came back from the war, he owed a lot of debt. He had to sell off large chunks of his land. He actually freed the very last slave woman in Massachusetts who lived at that house. The townspeople weren't too happy about that. And in 1803, he took it was either a pistol or a rifle, a flintlock rifle, and he unalived himself in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And now Justin Lee Winter now owns the house. He lives there, and he's experienced seeing a shadow figure, which if you see my video, he took a picture of it. It's the same height as Josiah Keefe. He was very tall, 6 foot, I think 5. He has people walking around upstairs. He had a female visitor in the house. She got her hair pulled. He was explaining about the hauntings, the chandelier burst. We've
Oh,
done
yeah,
many.
lights popping and stuff. Yeah.
Yep. We did many investigations in the home. We picked up many EMF spikes, captured EVPs. One time we were in the house in the music room, and Justin said, I hear something coming from the living room. So I'm like, all right, I'll go check it out. Right as I was trying to enter the living room, something knocked over an umbrella that was on the hutch, and we caught it on camera. It takes a human hand to move that. So we
Yeah,
thought
so
that was interesting.
I really love that story of the Josiah Keith house. That is amazing. My dad told me about that, and then my dad told me something else about Easton in particular in the Bridgewater Triangle. There's an ox buried in a graveyard that helped build Easton, and it's the only animal in America buried and recognized with a gravestone. And just it's near there. It's near the Josiah Keith house. So I was like, wow. So I there's a lot I don't know, and you've done so many spots. I still got to get to Skim Milk Bridge, the amazing history of that.
Here's something interesting, though, that we found out about the Josiah Keefe house. The Williams family lived right next door. The woman that accused all the girls of being witches during the Salem witch trials was Abigail Williams.
Yeah.
History doesn't say what happened to her after age 17. The town actually wanted to hang her from accusing these girls of being witches. She
Yeah.
disappeared off the map. But guess what? Her family lived next door from the Josiah Keefe house, the Williams family. What better place to hide? Now, there is a carving in Justin's fireplace mantle, and it's Abigail Williams, the name.
All right. So this is the type of shit I'm talking about that I don't know about. That you've done this because you've been investigating Bridgewater Triangle for a long time. I mean, I grew up there and I've had weird shit happen all my life. This is the type of stuff I love to hear about. What you're saying is, so that would kind of go along with the Wizard of Mill Pond. There's wizards and witches in this town, and Bridgewater Triangle had hidden history that, see, like I never heard that. I didn't know about that. I think even when I first told you about Nathan Seeley and the Wizard of Mill Pond, you were like, what the hell are you talking about? But you went and saw the site in the graveyard, and there is the old mill spot. It amazes me what a lot of these small towns, early America, people don't realize the history. And then I also started researching more of ancient Bridgewater Triangle, so what Wampanoags, the native tribe there, would have talked about. And through oral culture, I found out Pukwudgies are 9,000 years old.
Mhm.
I had no clue. You know what I mean? I thought it might be a couple hundred years old, but those are the little creatures that can put out spook lights or have magical powers, little troll, goblin type creatures. Now, I've personally seen spook lights multiple times growing up in that area. I tend to believe Bill Russo had an experience with a Pukwudgie. There are other people that have said they've had experiences with these little people. It gets to the point where you're like, what the hell is going on? It's over thousands of years. The Native Americans aren't just making these stories up. It's throughout the whole country and in specific areas. It's what makes me go, okay, so there is a lot more that we don't know about that we're going to have to look into, even look into oral history of past civilizations. It goes so far back.
Yes. And that's why
I'm sorry. I get so excited.
it's like good about why people think that just like with the whole civil rights stuff and thing like that, when people around here were trying to like remove like the statues of Nathan Bedford Forrest and all that sort of stuff, things like that. Like they're trying to say that just cause they removed something doesn't mean that it didn't happen, you know?
Right.
Right.
So I think me and your first investigation, Harry, that was Taunton River. Now that is infamous for Native American legends. That whole area. I think I even got us lost in the woods at night a little bit. What
A little bit.
we did experience a few things. I forget what it was.
That was back 2023, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't remember exactly when, but I took Harry out. I had been a fan of yours, and we went in the woods, and I think what we asked for was, can you make a noise? And we were on this old little wooden bridge, and a huge splash happened in the water. And
Oh yeah.
nothing else really happened during the night, but we did have those weird feelings. So I just did the witch's tree, and that investigation was great. I went out with my sister-in-law, Spectral Whispers on YouTube, if you want to check her channel out. We both felt full on chicken skin, where you get all that prickly weird feeling. So the witch's tree is the Perkin family or the Fuller family, and there's 9 or 10 people buried there. I don't know if you've been there, Harry. Have you?
The witch's tree, yes.
Yeah. What we got, I was rather surprised. I don't use apps much, but Thomas Perkins came through on the app, and then it told us to fuck off.
That was the towards me because he had research on their property and everything, and I was like, I don't think it was much of a castle. It was more of a private mansion sort of ordeal. And then as the FU came through, Spirit Talker.
So then after that, I'm like, okay, you don't usually get the names of graves and they're right in front of you. Things started lining up. It kept telling us to go away. I kept getting chicken skin. And then it said, I'm looking at this old grave, and the back of the witch's tree is actually grown over, and it's a small grave.
Charles, right?
I said, this is a kid's grave, or what? I never noticed this. All of a sudden, the thing says baby. And it said something after that. And I was like, whoa, all right. A lot of things started lining up. And my friend, Rawside Paranormal, my friend Laura, she's like, I put on the app, and she was doing it through her app, listening to us on the live chat. And it was coming up with some really interesting stuff to correspond with what we were talking about. And I'm like, that's the weirdest thing too, because it usually, it will just spit out words. It's an app. Let's talk a little bit about equipment, because I think you have some of the better equipment. I did just see you had an EM pump. Hi, buddy. Oh, I got a monster coming in now. Hold on. Oh, monster. Rah.
Hi.
So let's talk a little bit about equipment. Usually have my buddy James come on too. Maybe next week I'll do that. Me, Michael, and if you want to join, Harry. My buddy James Friday House is great with equipment. He makes his own stuff. From what I've seen, you've shown me some stuff that I'm really interested in too. So, throw out some equipment you like to use.
So the equipment that we like to use is, we have everything. We have night vision cameras, thermal cameras, spirit boxes, digital recorders, EMF meters, REM pods, laser scopes, laser grids, footstep trackers, EM pumps, motion sensor lights. We have all that. All that's fun and dandy, but the go-to equipment is going to be equipment that wasn't focused for paranormal investigations, but equipment that you adapt into this field. So, like, for instance, the night vision camera, that was for the military. EMF meters are meant to measure, the high transmission lines. Then you have digital recorders with parabolic mics. Parabolic mics are for, like, bird watching, but you hook it into the recorder to amplify any EVPs. And then, thermal cameras. It was actually meant for us HVAC guys to go around to see if there's any hot spots in the customer's home in the summer, and that would help us to
Yeah.
decide if the customer needs a large AC unit with more BTUs. But
Yeah.
all them,
That's what I grew up. I was doing electrical and HVAC, so I knew what an EMF meter was. I knew all these pieces of equipment. They started using it for paranormal, and I was like,
yes,
well, you're gonna pick up shit all over the place with that regular K2 like I have. It's just you're gonna get stuff even outside. There's natural EMF, microwaves, radio waves. But sometimes, like when you turned on your EM pump in certain areas, I've noticed like that actually works. I do tend to believe that the stone tape theory or even paranormal can use electricity or at least gather some energy from it. And then me and Mike here have actually said, if you're just talking about this stuff and you're bringing up the legends and stories and talking about the history of it, you can actually provoke this stuff a little bit more. I truly believe that. And some of the stuff you've done and some of your evidence, I look at and I'm like, wow, it's incredible what you've caught. So if anybody, let me say, Mad Reactions, who else is here? We got, I don't know who that is, Mid Ohio Valley Phenomena. Thank you for coming in. Directed by Pinky. Hello, Pinky. Yeah, so all you guys really got to check out Harry's channel. Hopefully somebody can put it in here.
the Bridgewater
If you don't
Triangle
see it-
Paranormal Investigators.
yeah, if you don't see it, it's on one of my posts.
On here today, so
Yeah,
But definitely check out
that,
Michael.
all that equipment
Yeah.
that we use, that's the go-to equipment. All the props like REM pods, all that. We use that. It's fun, but I wouldn't rely solely on just tools that were focused for ghost hunting.
That's why I stopped using a lot of stuff. I actually put the bell out and a little wind up music box. I want the physical. I want to see. I want to hear it. I had a weird thing happen in the woods behind my sister's house, and this is Taunton, Bridgewater Triangle. Walking out in those woods, I've had a go away before, and it was a female voice. So I just figured I'd go out there maybe a half an hour, and I'm just walking back. I'm like, I'm leaving. I'm getting out of here. It sounds like me breathing, but it's not. There's a difference. You can kind of tell the difference because I'm still talking as the breath comes through, but it is just like like a heavy sigh. And I was trying to listen closely. I put it on my TV and I was trying to listen. And I'm like, everybody's going to think that it's just me breathing. And it's not, because I actually heard it at the time. And I'm even saying, like, oh, I was only going to do a half an hour. And I plan on going to the witch's tree. And then there's this, like, weird breath. And I had heard it. But, like, it took me a second. And I'm, like, turning around. I even stopped and, like, I'm being quiet. I was really hoping for a voice, but you can't hear the voice coming through. And it's just those small things. I think the smaller stuff is actually more important. You're not, if you're live or if you're just filming and something happens, you have to point it out. Take the criticism. People are going to probably say it's a natural effect. It's an animal, but keep going. Make sure you're actually paying attention, because sometimes I go out and I'm too excited. And I've had things here in Virginia. Harry, I don't know if you've seen any of this, but so Fort Monroe is the biggest stone fort in Virginia, in the East Coast, and it's very haunted. Footsteps walking right up to me on a path. And I'm sitting in front of where Abraham Lincoln stayed. A lot of famous people stayed there. Ulysses S. Grant, Edgar Allan Poe was locked up there. People passed away. And from the 1700s, 1600s, this fort had shadow figures and military men reporting hearing things like footsteps and all this. I actually caught it on a live walking right up to me, and I didn't see anyone. I even say, what the fuck, and jump up, and I go look around. There's nobody around. Still can't explain that one, but definitely I hope you see that one.
And there was security
Go
out
ahead,
there.
Mike.
I was just saying, there's no way it was security either, because you would have seen the flashlight or like them walking by you if it would have been like security coming to tell you to
I
get out.
thought security was kicking me out again. I get kicked out all the time. The small things.
It's like, damn these trespassers.
It's not trespassing. It's an open area. You're allowed to go there till midnight. People do still live there. But the other thing is, I've seen a shadow figure there. I've had voices. I've had things seem like they were footsteps walking behind me while I was walking through this fort. Visually, I've been unlucky. I didn't catch the shadow figure that I saw there, but a lot of this stuff is real. It's happening. I do this off the cuff. I don't fucking do anything. There's no editing. I uploaded our video right after we got back to my house. You came over to the barbecue, and I uploaded that stuff. If there's anything on it, I want to review it and see what happens. It gets to the point where if something happens and we catch it, usually live when I go out, way better. I want visuals. I want you can hear it, and I know you've had a lot of stuff. Mike's had some stuff. I don't know. I can't explain all this stuff, and I get the fact that people are like ghosts aren't real. I get the fact that people are like, this is just overblown natural effect animals. I get that, but some of the stuff you've had, some of the stuff Michael's had throughout my life, it just gets to the point where you have to speak about this, and I don't think enough people talk about it because they get a stigma or you're crazy.
I still think one of my weirdest experiences happened like earlier this year. I don't know if you guys remember the ice storm that swept through the country like earlier this year, right? Well, my family and we were without power going on 8 days, and I was just writing a new episode for Mysteries Untold. So I was like up like really late for like maybe 1 or 2 a.m. And we were without power for 8 days, so we were in like one room with the curtains and everything heated up on the hallway and the kitchen to keep the heat in that one room. And my mom was on the one couch, my animals were on the other couch, and I was like in here writing, or like somewhere. I think I was in the living room actually, but I was just sitting down. Just got done writing the episode, and I heard that really annoying sound that only I can describe as something that a kid would do, that would get your attention or like to annoy you. You know, that tongue clacking sound that goes like, but it was like really, really loud. And I heard it loud enough that I came in here. I was like, what the actual fuck did I just hear? Because no one in there did it. They were all snoring. Even my animals snore, for heaven's sakes. But everyone in there was asleep, and I was the only one awake. And I know I didn't do it. So, and it wasn't like water dripping or anything, because, like I said, I was without power. So,
And this was during the winter?
yes, it was during the winter.
Do you believe that because there's more static electricity in the air in the winter that it would create more of a residual haunting?
I do believe in like that sort of thing, and I also believe that a lot of the reasons why I believe I experienced some of the stuff in the house is due to the land. Because as Ryan said about the Native American burial mound and stuff, I was like, this was back when I was still investigating the woods and everything. But I was hiking one day with my dog, and we came across what I can only describe as what looks like an undiscovered mound. And there's like this staircase going down, or what used to be a staircase going down. Now it looks more just like a hill, but you can still see the indentions in it with grass covering it up. And then there's like a perfect circular trail going around this massive mound that's up to my thighs in height. and I'm
I'm
6.
pretty sure it is, Mike. I've seen it enough where I'm pretty sure it is. Like when
Yeah,
I took you, Harry, it's kind of like that size of a mound. You know that it's big, and there's no way it's not something. There's all paths around it. You could tell the trees are all pretty small, and I think he did find something. I mean, Michael, you have what Civil War stuff out there too. I mean, it's Tennessee.
yeah.
He's out
So
western Tennessee, middle of the woods. So
skirmish
Bigfoot.
this land, while we're talking about the Civil War, a skirmish actually took place on the land that the house is set up on, and not every night, but just about maybe every other night before I go to sleep. If I'm like listening really, really closely, I could hear what sounds like people talking around a campfire, but you can't really make out what they're saying. It's just like a light muttering kind of sound and like little rhythmical drum beats. Sorry, I lost my voice right there.
That's what I've told you, Harry. Even Nikki told you, my sister there, about the Native American drumming and chanting. So
Yes.
I realized when you said the 1786 house, the alms house, the poor farm that me and you went to, was moved from center school. Right behind center school, if you go past the playground and keep going out in those woods, you know the devil's footprints. But
Yeah.
behind there, there's a bunch of rock walls, a well, and then the house that the girls recorded the Native American drumming and chanting actually did the Ouija board session in the house right there. And that was the old like settlement where all those Native Americans camped out. I had never known that house had been moved until Harry told me that.
Oh wow!
Mike has also gotten like a straight up
Oh,
whistle while we were doing a live, and then he's got a
this
walking stick behind him, and that moved.
I
One
was sitting.
time,
I was talking about the This is like during the live stream, but I think I removed it because I didn't want the bunkers coming in saying, "Oh, you knocked it over" or something like that, you know. But I was sitting over here. I was talking with my hands up. That's what I do when I'm live solo, just like talking and everything. And I was sitting over here just talking about the Lady in the Cloak experience, telling what she was doing. And my animals were asleep on the bed, like dead asleep. And right as I was saying, she was putting pine needles in like a huge like bag, pretty much. This sank. It like it went like this, pretty much. It just like you could look at it until it went like this, but it looked as though someone lifted it and moved it that way. Cause if it would have just fallen, or if I would have knocked it like it did earlier when I said, "Oh shit, that hurt," it
All right.
would have went like you would have heard that. But it was just like that. And my friend Jonathan too, aka Debunk Jump, he like messaged me. He's like, "I don't know if you saw this or not during that thing." He's like, "But you could clearly see like what looks like a mist in your mirror forming. Like I'm going towards the hiking stick as you're sitting there talking about the Lady in the Cloak."
we've had other weird shit too. So I've done a lot of sky watching, and me and Mike and my buddy James have been on here, and all of a sudden we'll start to get these weird tones, and it's like rhythmic, and it seems like interference from something. And I am near a military base down here in Virginia, but this stuff that starts to happen, I've never had it happen before. Like right now, if it was going to happen, it probably happened right now if it was normal. But then I noticed James and his friend doing a live chat, and they got it. And I don't know if it's just interference, but there's some type of weird radio signal or something going on. Mike and me have had it, and it's happened a couple times.
There's
So
probably government listening in on us because we were talking about things that we didn't need to, like the Roswell stuff and what's underneath it.
yeah, so I think talking about this stuff, even the paranormal in Bridgewater or Tennessee and this haunted stuff, just by bringing it up, I think that you can actually bring up more stuff. I've had a weird string of bad luck, and usually I don't contribute any of that to the paranormal stuff that I do. but it just seems to keep happening every time I go to a new location. I'll get a flat tire. All right. And then another flat tire. All right. And then, oh, your wallet disappeared. Oh, like, so I did think for a little bit there, I was like, geez, maybe I should just stop. I don't know if I want to keep doing this. Oh, and I got little kids here attacking. Ah, crazy.
I'm gonna get you.
But I really appreciate you coming out, Harry. That was probably one of my favorite investigations, even though it's just me and you going into an abandoned place. Not much happened, but we did get a few things.
Well, actually, I don't know if I told you but I picked up a lot of microphone interference while we were in there. A lot of audio pops, which is strange because that microphone isn't supposed to do that. It's never done that.
I don't know. I don't know if you're gonna put out a video. I know you filmed a little bit, but I do this stuff so all natural. Just film, put it up.
I do have the video. I am going to put it up there because we did capture an EVP while we were there. When I was saying, were you treated good here? If yes, tap the REM pod. You can hear an older guy's voice in the background saying, go. He won't go.
See, I knew, like, I was reviewing my own video. I can hear some stuff, but it will be a lot clearer on your video. You can hear some of that on my videos, but I'm not as close to the spirit box as you. But I knew I had heard some stuff. I made a few shorts because I didn't realize that well was like 20 feet down in that basement. I thought that was a hayloft, like to pull up wood or whatever. Right. And it's a deep well. Didn't also realize that the Devil's Footprints, so that's a very old legend in Easton. The actual footprints are in somebody's backyard, and they have signs up that say no trespassing, do not enter. And I've never gone over and looked at those because they're in somebody's backyard. But that's right behind that house, the 1786 almshouse, where the poor farm is. And that poor farm actually stretched all the way past center school and into those woods, down into where my parents live and stuff. I don't always have like the Native American drumming or that type of experience. It might just be a voice. Like I said to you, when we were in that house, sometimes you'll hear a little kid saying something. Sometimes you'll hear a footstep. I know we heard a footstep upstairs when we were in that house.
Yes.
I knew we got a few things on the spirit box. I don't think anything happened when I left my camera running on the REM pod, on the bell and the music box. Nothing happened. I even watched that twice, and it's like a half an hour of just me and you walking through the house, nobody around, not a goddamn thing happened. And that is most of your investigations. Nothing happens. But every once in a while, it's like fishing.
You get lucky every now and then.
So there's a few other spots that you've gone I definitely want to get to. One of yours was, what was it, Harry? The Skim Milk Bridge. You've had some weird things out by Skim Milk Bridge.
Yes.
Wasn't that a lady disappeared on a kayak or something and ended up under the bridge? She was found.
So here's the thing. The legend and the lore in the Bridgewater Triangle was always that she was found underneath that bridge. However, I'm not going to mention the person's name that made this legend famous, but they were wrong. She was found underneath Comfort Bridge near the Solitude Stone, but in that area.
Okay.
When I actually was on Expedition X, I was talking to them about that, and they were able to find the information instantly. They said, yeah, it was underneath the Comfort Bridge. And I said, all right, I knew it. Thanks for verifying it. But yeah, that's the Skid Bridge is a 10,000-year-old glacier stone structure. No one knows how it was constructed.
Wow.
It's crossed over the town river, which later on turns into the Taunton River. They call it Skim Milk Bridge because the river had a clay coloring at one time, like milk. 1916, a girl named Evelyn Packard took her kayak down the river, the town river, and she disappeared.
Yeah.
They found her kayak bone dry. There was no evidence that it tipped over. They saw her footprints in the muck. They knew that she got out. They did not know why. They combed the swamp. Even the boys from the Lincoln School at the time in Brockton helped look for Evelyn Packard. No one could find her. Now, during the search, a reporter that was covering the story, he actually was near the Comfort Bridge. He didn't see her. And he sat down on the stone to have a cigarette break. And when he stood up, he noticed a strange carving in the stone. And this carving said, "All ye who in future days walk by none contested stream, love not him who hummed his lay, cheerful to the parting beam." No one knows who carved it. It actually took the town people 80 years, and they discovered it was carved by Reverend Timothy Otis Payne. He had ties with Emanuel Swedenborg, who taught in the ways of Freemasons. He believed he can visit the heavens and hell spiritually.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think it has ties with the Freemasons. I used to be a Freemason. I'll say that we don't text, carve, write, speak our secrets into stone or anything like that.
Yeah.
But going backwards now, after the reporter just discovered the stone, they still couldn't find Evelyn Packard. I think it was 4 days later, her body was found now floating underneath the bridge in the river. No one knows what happened to her. We did do an investigation out there in 2021. I did think I saw somebody on the trail, wasn't too sure. When I went back and reviewed the footage, you see this like kind of like this mist just like run by the camera real fast.
I saw it. Yep.
Now, when we were out there, Paul, one of my investigators, said he heard a woman saying hello, and you could hear whispers throughout this whole swamp. Now, here's the strange thing. No one really knows what happened to Evelyn Packard. There was a theory that the boys from the boys' summer camp were involved in this. They committed some foul play. So we went out there in 2024 now to do an investigation, and we were further up on the trail past the Skim Milk Bridge, more close to where she was found, and we were running the spirit box. And I was asking Evelyn, what happened to you? Was it foul play? A female's voice came out of that spirit box that said, I'll keep this friendly, RAPE. Now, further through the spirit box investigation, a woman cried out on the spirit box saying, I said, stop it, please stop, please stop, please stop, please stop, over and over. So I found that to be very strange.
That is messed up. That's that type of stuff that gives you, like, I actually still get chicken skin. I watched that. There's some stuff that we cannot fucking explain at all when it comes to these type of investigations. You're going out, you're like me, where you're just going out and seeing what happens. That's why I think I like your channel so much, and was like, all right, I gotta get in contact with Harry because he's getting stuff that I've actually witnessed. Not necessarily, the Skim Milk Bridge or whatever, but there are things that are happening that we cannot explain. This stuff really is happening. I don't understand where people come in and they're like, oh, it's just natural, it's this or that. When you start to get voices or you're getting these things coming through, you're not always going to be perfect, right? But if you're doing a live chat and you're getting this, or if you're just filming and it's happening naturally, I tend to take that a little more to heart. And then you also have to look at the legends of the past that have been told for how long now. This stuff is actually happening. It's not just like, oh, one story from one person. This stuff is going on. Let me say hello to more people. Let me see. Sadra, Spectral Whispers, hello. Had so much fun with her at the Witch's Tree. Anybody joining, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you guys coming on here talking about this stuff, because it has a stigma to it, and I don't think we need to have that type of stigma where, oh, it's just bullshit and natural causes. It gets to the point where it gets annoying. I've almost quit. I've had things where I've been at a location live chatting and something comes through and people are like, well, it's probably just this or probably just that. When you're talking about historical events that have been historic condition, like the actual events, same thing happening over and over again. Is it just residual? Is it intelligent? That's where it starts to get me like, all right, I have to find out if this is intelligent or not. Then if it's just a repeating thing, can we go back and get the same thing? It is almost impossible to get repeatable evidence from a location. That's a big one for me. And you've had a few of those, Harry. Mike, you've had a few of those where it's actually repeatable evidence. I've had a few.
Went to Shiloh. Those.
It's not always going to be repeatable.
If you want, I can tell you about that story before we wrap it up, if you want to.
Please.
So, last time I was at Shiloh, I was walking around this area called the Thunder in the Thicket, which is like this massive trail of woods on the battlefield where all the cannons and everything were at. And I was just walking around, making some B-roll footage and stuff like that, and just walking around talking about all the claims that were happening there. And one of the claims that I mentioned was supposedly you could hear phantom footsteps coming up behind you. And I was filming like with my phone in my hand like this, like, and it was in selfie mode because I was sitting there talking about the claim. And then when I said behind you, I saw this washed out version of what looked like a person kind of walking up behind me. And I turned around. I was like, I think someone is walking up behind me. But I realized after I said, I think someone's walking up behind me, I didn't hear any sound. So I turned around and I looked, and there was there. But what it looked like to me was a Confederate soldier like going around the cannon to load almost. It looked. I'm a tracker. I walked around and I looked to see if there were human footprints there or anything. And there were no sign of any living people's footprints being around the cannons.
That's the type of stuff I'm talking about. When you're physically there and catching this stuff, I got to say, also, Harry, your experience, maybe talk about that for Expedition X. So I'm a big fan of Josh Gates and Expedition Unknown, Expedition X. How was that? Like, that's crazy to me. You were on a TV show because I saw you on TV and I was like, that's my buddy. What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, I know the producers hit me up in, I think, the winter of 2024, and they were asking me about the Bridgewater Triangle, and we planned out a meeting spot. It was at the VFW Club in Bridgewater.
Okay.
It was an awesome experience. You know, I know when I was out there at Lake Nipponicket, we were out there for like 2 hours for like a 1 minute interview. The final edits were 1 minute, but you know, it was a good chance to get out there. I didn't meet Josh Gates, only Phil and Heather. Unfortunately, a lot of people didn't like the episode. people in this region, they hated it.
I liked it.
You're one of the few. And the reason why is because they didn't go into a lot of the history of the Bridgewater Triangle. And don't forget, the show's only like an hour long. There's only so much they can fit. A lot of people were upset that they didn't make it to the final cut. And again, Tim Weisenberg actually explained this, that if you're not a good speaker, then you're going to get booted. A lot of other people were upset because they didn't mention the war, and unfortunately, they can. The thing is, they mentioned, they used a certain word towards it. Sensitive topic is what they said. When I was telling them,
war isn't mentioned much in history at all, anyway.
I was telling them about the Evelyn Packard story, and they were like, "Oh, that's very sensitive." So that's why there's a lot of things missing about the war. During Justin's interview at the Josiah Keefe House, there's nothing even said about Josiah, unaliving himself. And again, it's because it's a sensitive topic. There's only so much that they can put on the show, and I think it's because Discovery is owned by Warner Brothers now. So
yeah,
that's why it was the way it was. So what you see is what you get. And unfortunately, it's not them just excluding this. It's because that they're only allowed to have certain scenes, use certain footage because of a lot of things are sensitive according to like the studios.
The suicide, stuff like that, wars and stuff like that. People don't know about King Philip's War. The beginning of this country, they don't. There's not a lot talked about some of the stuff that happened. I gotta say, your channel is amazing, so I really hope people go and check that out for Harry Bridgewater Triangle. Make sure you check out Micheal. I've actually had things in Bridgewater Triangle. Go ahead, Mike.
I was just like saying, only if you like unsugar-coated history. I don't sugarcoat my language, and YouTube seems fine with it.
Right. It does seem like you can't talk about some of this stuff, or if you do, like Freetown State Forest, Satanic Panic, all that. But there's some really bad stuff in there, but it is part of the history. There's some stuff we don't know about in that situation, and that's Bridgewater Triangle. Then if you do talk about it, they're like, no, that was widespread Satanic Panic. It kind of started in Freetown State Forest. That was early 70s, 80s. There are certain levels of stuff you can talk about, and then if you do talk about stuff, they're going to boot you out. I did get to yell at Josh Gates one time. I went and saw him live, and I screamed out, Paul Shea. And this was the guy who had the biggest Back to the Future DeLorean cars and all the Doc Brown's car and Marty's truck. And so I went to this dude's house, and he has the biggest Back to the Future museum. And that's one of my favorite videos I've ever done. Nothing to do with paranormal. But then he also comes out and he's like, hey, check this out. And he's got the Echo One Ghostbusters car. And he's got Corvettes and like all this stuff. And the only thing I knew about it was from Josh Gates doing a Back to the Future show. So yelling at Josh Gates, and he's on stage live, and I'm like, hey, from like the balcony. I'm just yelling at it because people are asking questions, and I'm like, I don't care. I go all out. I'm very natural. I want this stuff to be out there. I want this to be fun. I think it is important to talk about our paranormal weird happenings. It gets to the point where you're kind of shut up and you don't want to say anything because you seem a little weird, but it really is. It happens. It happens to a lot of people, and I think we need to just do this and talk about it more.
So do I.
Octopus with no friends. Hey, what's up? So here's a suggestion for Harry and Micheal. Check out Wild and Weird West Virginia. I only know Octopus with No Friends from that. They do a great job. They go out, investigate West Virginia, Mothman type stuff, UFOs, paranormal. So check out Wild and Weird West Virginia. I'm hoping everybody goes and subscribes to Harry. Go give him a sub because he does a great job with investigations. Make sure you check out Micheal.
Like I said, only if you don't mind unsugar-coated history, because I say words that YouTube doesn't ordinarily allow people to say unless it's for educational purposes. So,
I say fuck. I don't care.
What's the name of your channel?
Mysteries Untold, True Haunted History.
Okay.
You can just look up Chemical Nerub, like at Chemical Nerub, which is an acronym for my name. So,
Chemical Nero. I forget that one. And then, yeah, just check out Mysteries Untold. Well, is it True Haunted History after that?
yeah, it's True Haunted History.
Okay. I always say Mysteries Untold and I forget the second half. I'm sorry, Mike.
It's all good. All good.
Let's see. We got some people saying some stuff. So let's get to the questions. Anybody have questions for Mike or Harry? Let's see. I got to look at these. Hold on. Spectral Whispers. Hello. Octopus with no friends.
What a weird name, but I like it.
I'm in southern Worcester County, west of Bridgewater Triangle. All right, so that's Octopus with no friends. So yeah, he's near there. Hey, Octopus, if you want to hang out sometime, we can all go do an investigation. October. I'll be up a week before my wedding. I have a wedding. Michael, drop a comment. I don't know how. Ooh, I'm pressing buttons now. This isn't good. I shouldn't do this. Oh God. Yeah. Okay, we're good. Anybody have questions for Harry or Michael? I mean, please do subscribe to them. Do a great job on investigations. I will be out soon. I'm going to go out sky watching. I'm going to do. I got a few things coming up. Old House Road is an abandoned part of the woods where a pirate ship, a ghost ship, floats over the woods. The buried pirate treasure is out there, and a banshee that screams and flies over the woods. Oh, so that's from the 1700s in Virginia. A few other things that I want to get back to. What are you guys getting up to?
Not much. I got a ton of guests coming on my show. Tomorrow, I'll be hanging out with the lovely Jessica Crutel of Mystic Mittens Paranormal at 4 p.m. Then on the 6th, I actually was shocked when I actually managed to book this guy because he's a bit of a celebrity. I'm sure Harry probably recognizes the name. Lloyd Auerbach. Have you heard of him? The parapsychologist?
No.
You haven't? Okay. Well, he's from like the 80s and stuff, but he agreed to come on the show. I got him coming on and just a whole bunch of other people. So, like Tim Binga and Bobby Washington. So,
you did one yesterday, Michael. That was I didn't know about him. Mm-hmm. What's his name? Robert?
Yeah, Robert. He used to go by Robert Earl White, but
what's his channel?
Paranormal Unearthed.
Paranormal Unearthed. Very interesting. Some crazy stuff he was talking about.
Yeah, we hung out like for 30 minutes, like after the show, just talking about random stuff. He was like, I was like, all right, dude, I'm going to have to bounce off of here. And he's like, do you really have to go? Or can we like talk and hang out? I'm like, sure, man.
It was awesome. I got to say, some of the wilder claims I've heard, and I've had UFO and spirit and all sorts of weird experiences. That one, I was like, holy shit, that was crazy. Harry, you got anything coming up?
We got a couple investigations coming up inside some residential homes, yes.
All right.
And honestly, that's what I love doing versus going out in the Bridgewater Triangle, you know, chasing legends, being out there in the cold in the winter. I love going into people's homes. I will say this, like investigating like, you know, Lizzie Borden or, you know, Peter Oliver House. those are all great places, except you've had other investigators in there. So now you're kind of piggybacking off of what they may
Yeah.
have thought. Versus if you go into somebody's home, you're the first group to arrive. So now your evidence is going to be the first. It's going to be real. You can try to debunk what else it could be besides paranormal. So that's really what I love doing.
I've never done residential. I've been to a few people's houses that asked me to come over, but I've only done like one or two. I just usually go for the historic and try and find the historic stuff. But I am thinking about going to, like, nowadays hauntings at people's houses.
And the
It
best
kind
part
of freaks me
is,
out.
it's free.
Yeah. I go everywhere free. If you haven't noticed over 7 years of me doing this, I don't go and pay for this stuff. I go find the free shit because I can't afford it.
The best way to do it is, establish good communication with the community out where you're at, get yourself well known. So that way people can, will say, hey, I want these guys in my home. I want them to investigate. They build up that, trust issue.
Yeah. I've only done a few. I've done three, and one of them is on my YouTube. I don't do residential. I don't deal. If I do that, it's not on camera, and it's just to try and help the family. And usually, not much happens. The one that is on camera, I did get what was the opposite of evidence. So my K2 wouldn't go off next to the outlets or any power cords, but put the REM pod or the K2 in the middle of the room and it would start going off. That was an interesting one because I can't explain that. She even moved and she had kids and stuff. Still has some weird shit going on, and I've talked to her in the past few months. Still having stuff going on, and they moved house and everything. So I think it might be an attachment to the family, not where they're living. So
And you said they reached out to help. They wanted help.
Yeah, and all I did was go in there and prove that there's something odd going on. Equipment will go off. You're getting some odd voices. What was really weird, my K2 wouldn't go off next to the outlets or light switches or anything. And I have like the regular K2.
That's kind of what you want. You don't
video.
want it to go off really in front of those, but yeah,
Right.
they are notorious for going off near electrical outlets.
And it only would go off away from the outlets or the light switches, which was weird. I was like, I don't know what's going on.
Batteries might be acting up.
It was a first for me, and I just was like, all right, so you have something. There's something going on I can't explain. I'm not sure. REM pod, even stick it next to the TV or like, hey, try and set off your phone, or do you have walkie-talkies? Nothing. It was in the middle of the room and it would start going off. So I was like, I don't know. Just high EMF? I'm not sure.
That's awesome that they reached out to you. They wanted that help. Usually it's the opposite with me. I've never had someone come up to me and say, Harry, my house is haunted. My family's scared shitless. Please help, exorcise this spirit out of here. I don't even know how to do that. The type of people that, come up to me. Yeah, see, I don't know anything about that. I'm not earthbound. Usually the type of people that come up to me are the people that want that die hardcore evidence. They want their house to be haunted. They love it. They want that. Yeah. They want to investigate with you. They want to see it for themselves.
My wife is more into the sage and doing Ouija board and the more spiritual side, and she knows blowing cinnamon out your front door can help clear the house. There's a lot of stuff I don't get involved in. Some of the witchcraft stuff. What Alicia does actually did help, and they had news of what was happening, but still, it was scaring the kids. We had known them for months, and we just went there, and she's like, my husband has equipment. We'll see what happens. It was just basically a hangout. We had a few drinks, we ate some food, and then weird stuff happening around the house. I was like, I can't explain this. I don't know why you're having this. And it was a newer built house. It wasn't an old house or anything. But other neighbors in that area were also talking about shadow figures knocking. This type of stuff happens to people that are normal and don't really want to talk about it. I've had stuff at my house. I know you guys have.
Speaking of the main thing that you were mentioning, you remember the other day, like actually, I think it was possibly last month when I texted you about my coffee machine, my coffee maker unplugging itself, right?
Yeah.
So I was sitting over there on the couch and I was making a fresh cup of coffee and everything, and there was nothing back there to make it like just get nudged and the wire unplugged. My animals were in the room and everything, and I was the only one home. But out of nowhere, I was sitting over there for like at least 5 minutes, and I got one of those pod coffee makers, and so it only takes like about maybe 1 minute at most to make a cup of coffee. And so I was sitting there for like 5 minutes waiting for the damn coffee to come, and then I heard like there's something that goes like a little like that.
Yeah.
And I go in there and look, and something unplugged the coffee machine. So Ryan was mentioning about stuff that I could do to like do that. So I did the cinnamon thing, and I'll be a son of a bitch if the damn thing didn't. If the weather didn't rain like the next 5 minutes, like right after I did the cinnamon thing, so I was like, ah.
Yeah. So some small things can help. I only I might put a crystal in my pocket just for slight protection. I've had a lot of bad luck. I don't think it's always just because you're doing paranormal investigations. I think it's just coinciding and seems like it might line up. But stuff like that, the small things that you might not notice in your house, like something moved or something gets unplugged, I really started paying attention to, and it's everything. You're always surrounded and you don't even know. I gotta say hello, Victoria Darkwood. Hi, Susan. Sage Rat and Victoria. I'll probably be meeting up. I'll be meeting up with Victoria, Susan, up in Massachusetts when I come back up. Hopefully I can meet up with you again, Harry, and we'll go do something. Maybe the, what the hell was it called? The Seaguard House?
Oh,
Yeah.
Josiah Keefe House.
Or Josiah Keefe. What's the one downtown Easton? I think we were going to go to it, and then we went to the
Queeset House.
Queeset House, that's what it is. I would love to go to those. So I'll be doing a lot more. I will be back up there soon. This was great. I really appreciate you guys. I thank everybody that came in. You guys got anything else going on? Anybody have questions?
And by the way, having this on
Bueller? Anybody got questions?
No questions. I just wanted to thank you for having it on your channel because I have a ton of guests coming up lately. So I booked more than I was surprisingly got. So I didn't even realize I was going to get that many guests coming on.
Sab's in here. What's up, Sab? So this is the type of stuff I want to do this again. Maybe we should all just do this the next time, and whatever happens, we'll just talk about the next stuff that happens to us and chill like this again. Maybe we'll have James on Friday House. I know he was busy, but I really appreciate all you guys. Thank you, Harry. Thank you, Michael.
Anytime, bro.
Yeah,
Definitely,
let's do this again soon.
And make sure everyone subscribe to the Bridgewater Triangle Paranormal Investigators. We are in search for the truth.
Yes. Make sure you go check out Harry. Make sure you check out Michael. We're going to get
that subscribe button. Hit that like button for the both of us.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you, Fawn. Thank you, Susan. You guys have a great day. Everybody, thank you for joining. Thanks. I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good night, you guys.
You
You
too.
too, bro. Nice meeting you, Harry.
Nice meeting you.